Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/spookshow. Then go over to morbidlybeautiful.com as we are now part of the Morbidly Beautiful Podcasting Network. Hello and welcome to another edition of the All-American Spookshow podcast. I'm Josh and I am joined here with Will.
Hey.
Donnie.
Hey. And
the Professor Smoke.
What's up?
And I think this is the first time in about 9 or 10 episodes that all four of us are here at the same time. This is a milestone episode apparently.
I gotta go.
Yeah. I just decided against this. Goodbye. But then we just leave up the next hour of silence, and then anybody listening to us like, what the hell is this? And then Donnie comes in at the end like, oh, I was here. Sorry. But anyways, this is our latest episode of Cannon Fodder. So it's Memorial Day. So what better way to celebrate this grand holiday than with Invasion U.S.A., the Cannon Films classic from Chuck Norris. But before we get deep into it, and of course, we rate this in a different way. We rate it with cannonballs. This is our totally original, totally patented cannonballs rating system here. So it's going to be slightly skewed a little differently than what our normal star ratings and all that. So if you didn't listen to this, is only the second episode of Cannon Fodder. The third or fourth time we've done a Cannon film, I think we kind of added up. Yeah. But this is the second official episode of Cannon Fodder, because we did No Holds Barred back a month and a half.
It was
ago.
10 to midnight.
Oh God, I'm confusing. No, not even that. It was Over the Top.
Over the Top.
Yeah.
Oh, you're okay. Yeah.
I'm thinking about Crapster Piece.
I'm completely fucked up then.
Yeah, I was thinking of Crapster Piece Theater, No Holds Barred. I don't know why I said that, but anyways, we're all over the fucking place here. This is Cannon Fodder. This is Invasion U.S.A. This is Chuck Norris. So, but before we get any deeper into it, I'll go ahead and throw out the usual information. You can contact us at allamericanspookshow@gmail.com. You can go down the Linktree link in the show notes for all the links to our socials. Of course, we have patreon.com/AASpookshow where you can become a patron of the show and get bonus episodes, early access to these podcasts. You usually get them a day, 2, sometimes 3 or 4 days early, depending on, how fast we're able to record them and get them out. But you will get them earlier than everyone else over there. So, and tons of other stuff on Patreon. So patreon.com/AASpookshow. And of course, we have a TeePublic page where we have logoed merchandise and other cool designs, all that stuff down in the show notes. So without any further build-up, I'll go ahead and toss to the trailer for Invasion U.S.A.
Time for dinner.
No one thought it could ever happen here. They are an army of international terrorists.
America has not been invaded by a foreign enemy in nearly 200 years.
Their target, America. Their objective, control.
18 hours from now, America will be a different place.
Now, only one thing stands in their way.
It's time to die.
Didn't work, huh? Now it will.
They wanted a war.
See you in hell.
He gave them one.
Send me a postcard.
Chuck Norris. Invasion U.S.A.
All right, so there's the trailer for that. So I guess we'll kind of go around the table real briefly, real quick, and just kind of see what our history and how many times we've seen this or anything. Will, I guess I'll start with you. Is this the first time, or how many times have you watched this one?
I've definitely seen bits and pieces of this one. This is the first time I've ever sat down and watched the whole thing.
Donnie, what about you?
I've seen this a few times.
Smoke?
More than a few times, probably. I don't have a number, but I mean, I saw it in the theater when it first came out once, and then on video quite a few times, and then on whatever cable service, and I have it on Betamax, and I have it on VHS, and I have it on DVD.
You just was there a CED of it? Well, I guess probably CEDs were kind of.
I don't have that. Yeah.
Yeah. When did just not to go off on too far of a tangent, but when did CED like kind of die off? Was that?
Well, actually, you know what? I don't know for sure 100% if it did, because this is 84. This movie came out. CEDs came out in 1981, and they didn't last too much longer beyond that. They might have, maybe they made it in 84. Once we do the complete history on that, once we get back to, spotlight on home video and whatnot, I can have more on that. But I know it didn't last long.
Yeah.
Probably 83 to 84. So it very well could have been put out on CED, but not 100%. It definitely didn't last like Laserdisc or any of those other offshoots.
This movie actually came out in 1985. So maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But my history with this one is, I watched it a number of times back in the day, but it was like the edited version.
Yeah, same.
I don't know if I've ever sat down and watched the total unedited version, or if I have, it's been a long time ago. Probably back in the 90s at some point. But either way, it's been a long time for me, so it might as well be a new watch. It's been so long. But yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun to dig into once we get to the movie. But some of the little background information that I dug up, some of the usual bits. It was released September 27th, 1985 by Cannon Films, and then, of course, distributed by Cannon Releasing Corporation. So this is a Golden Globus classic. Rated R, of course. Total runtime 1 hour 47 minutes. So it's a bit long, a bit on the long side for a movie like this, right? On IMDb, it's listed as an action/thriller. It was filmed in multiple locations around the Atlanta, Georgia area, and also down around Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and Fort Pierce, Florida. So all around those different areas from January to April of 1985. And like I said, it was released September 27th. So in the usual Cannon way, right? Quick turnaround. But it was made for a budget of $12 million, which is really high for a Cannon film. But it made a worldwide gross of $17.5 million. I actually have the top 10 that weekend, and since we don't always do this, but since we have it, I'll go ahead and run through it because it's kind of interesting. Number 10, Kiss of the Spider Woman. Number 9, Compromising Positions. I've never heard of that in my life. I mean, if so, it was a porn or something. Number 8, another porn classic, Cocoon. Number 7, Creator. Number 6, Maxie. Once again, never heard of that. Number 5, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Number 4, Teen Wolf. Number 3, and this is the one that this movie actually bumped off from number 1, because the previous week it was number 1. But it fell to number 3 because of Invasion USA. Back to the Future was in its 13th week, and it got bumped by Invasion USA.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And then for some reason, number 2 is Agnes of God. I don't know how that got stuck in there. And then Invasion USA was number 1 that week, and it made $6.8 million. So obviously most of what it made was that first week, but still pretty impressive that it knocked Back to the Future off its perch, right?
Yep.
I guess before we get any further into any more details, of course, we have our recurring segment with Cannon Film Guide author Austin Trunick. He recorded a little bit for us and sent it over to us so we can play that for you here today. So I'm going to go ahead and toss to that, and then that way we won't reference anything later on that he talks about here. So here's Austin.
Hello, Austin Trunick here, author of the Cannon Film Guide, the second volume of which was released the first week of May, just a couple weeks ago, and actually contains a full chapter dedicated to today's subject, Invasion USA. Now, Invasion USA actually began its life under the title American Ninja. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wait a second, this isn't the Michael Dudikoff, Steve James, mystical military martial arts movie we all love and adore, but hear me out. Menachem Golan, the head of Cannon Films at the time, had been working on ideas to launch a new franchise of ninja movies after Sho Kosugi had fled for bigger opportunities outside of Cannon. What he came up with was the title American Ninja and the plan to make it a vehicle for their new biggest star, Chuck Norris. Menachem essentially gave screenwriter James Brunner just that title, American Ninja, and said, here, turn this into a movie for Chuck. Now, up to this point of his career, James Brunner had only written Chuck Norris movies, and so they had a great working relationship. Brunner had written 1982's An Eye for an Eye and 1984's Missing in Action, which, by coincidence, had been Chuck Norris's biggest hit and Cannon's biggest hit to that point. Now, the problem with his American Ninja assignment, though, was that Chuck did not want to make a ninja movie. One reason was that his marketability as a bankable action star was still on the rise at that point, really shooting upwards, and so he didn't necessarily want to do a movie where he'd have to wear a mask through all of the action scenes. The bigger reason is that he was already entering his late 40s by the time his career was taking off, and he was actively trying to get away from making movies that were purely martial arts films. He didn't want to be pigeonholed and eventually age out of his career. So even though he was a former karate champion, you can see that his movies in the 1980s were less and less about the kung fu, and they were mixing in more and more gunplay, rocket launching motorcycle play, what have you. He was playing more and more cops, more and more soldiers, and he'd be shooting 9 or 10 bad guys for every one that he roundhouse kicked. So basically, Chuck was like, I don't want to play a ninja right now. So James Brunner had a clever idea and thought, let's make you a CIA agent, but your code name is American Ninja. That's a workaround. And that's what they did. James Brunner wrote the script that essentially became Invasion USA, but with the caveat that Matt Hunter's code name was American Ninja, and he turned it into Cannon. Menachem loved the idea and wanted to send the movie right into production, but he rightfully decided that he couldn't call the movie American Ninja when, well, there were no ninjas in it, and Cannon were basically kings of the ninja movie at the time. So they retitled this one Invasion USA and then recycled the American Ninja title, and that became the Michael Dudikoff classic that's so near and dear to our hearts to this day. Now, in my opinion, Invasion USA is probably the best looking action movie that Cannon ever made. Not because they spent more money on it, but because the production value is through the roof. There's a scene where Richard Lynch rolls into an idyllic American suburb with a rocket launcher and just roasts the whole neighborhood. He blows up every house on the cul-de-sac. Now, that was a real neighborhood that was set to be bulldozed to expand the Atlanta airport. Cannon got permission to help with the demolition and wrote that scene into the script. Any studio would have built a bunch of facades on a backlot and then burned them down, but for Cannon it was cheaper to find some real houses they could blow up. That's why the scene looks so real and so it's so memorable. Those houses had people living in them a couple months before shooting began. A similar thing happened at the mall shootout that's in the movie. There was an Atlanta mall that was gutting an entire wing for renovation, so it was okay for Cannon to just wreck the place, and so they wrote a whole action scene around that. Elsewhere, there's like scenes where they could convince the National Guard to roll tanks into downtown Atlanta. That's stuff. The stuff that Cannon got permission to do in this movie is just wild and hard to imagine, but it looks awesome. Now, my biggest knock on the film is that the plot makes very little sense, and yeah, that's true. It's really just one action scene after another without any explanation of how Chuck knows exactly where the bad guys are going to be at any given moment or what they're up to. There's 1 second he'll be in Florida, and the next scene he'll be thwarting evildoers in Georgia or something. And it's just bad guys doing stuff, and then, uh-oh, here's Chuck Norris, you guys are screwed. To me, that there's a charm to that, but in the book I actually refer to that as quote-unquote Chuck Norris magic. But there's also a reason behind that. In the original script, we were supposed to follow the plot from the point of view of the reporter who's in the film, played by Melissa Prophet. She had a much larger role in the movie and would give updates on what was happening with the ongoing invasion to the U.S.A. But in the editing phase, they didn't like her performance, and so they had to cut all of that out. So if it feels like the plot of Invasion USA is full of holes, that's because they literally cut out scenes that were meant to connect all of the action in the film. Now, here's another little piece of trivia that gets me too, but the reporter role, Melissa Prophet's role in the movie, It almost went to Whoopi Goldberg. Now try to picture that. Chuck Norris had actually seen her in a play right around the time they were working on Invasion USA, and she was mostly unknown at the time. But he went to Cannon and he fought for her to have a part in Invasion USA. He thought she was great and very talented. But Chuck obviously lost out on that argument. Instead, Whoopi wound up making The Color Purple and winning an Oscar, though, so it's safe to say things worked out okay for her. Rating. I'm like, this is a tough one. My heart wants me to give this movie a 5 out of 5. And gosh, you guys are probably thinking, why the hell did we invite this guy on if he's just going to give every Cannon movie a perfect rating? But you started the series with like 2 really good ones with Over the Top and Invasion USA. Invasion USA is one of my personal favorites. Out of Chuck's movies, my personal favorite, period, of the stuff he did with Cannon. It's almost nonstop action. Chuck's not forced to do too much acting, which is never his number one thing you want to see him do in a movie. Richard Lynch is awesome. He's a welcome sight in any movie he's in. And the production value, like I said before, the production value on this movie is through the roof. This looks like a big studio action movie, but was shot with much less than half of the money that, say, a Warner Brothers or Fox would have spent to shoot the exact same thing. And good on Cannon for pulling that off. Give those guys a pat on the back. This movie looks awesome. And Invasion USA is a lot of fun. I will say that. So yeah, there's my rating, 5 out of 5. When you want to talk about Bolero or Hot Chili or some of the truly dreadful Cannon movies, I promise I will give you much lower ratings. And with that, guys, thank you for having me back on the show. And this is Austin Trunick signing out.
All right, so as always, we appreciate Austin coming on and giving his 2 cents and some of the background information and stuff. It makes it a little not only easier on us, but like he has such a he's literally written like 2 encyclopedias of Cannon stuff. So like all this stuff comes more natural to him. So he's going to have a lot more background info that we may or may not have been able to dig up. So it's always cool to have him on. And we look forward to getting him on pretty soon to talk about the Cannon Film Guide Volume 2 that just released here in the month of May. So we encourage you to go check that out on Amazon or I'm not sure the other ways you can get it, but I'm pretty sure you can find it on Amazon.
Yeah.
And we encourage you to go order that and follow him on Twitter as well. Cannon Film Guide on Twitter. So we appreciate you, Austin. Well, I guess before we get into the notes, I'll go ahead and run through the cast real fast. It stars, of course, Chuck Norris as Matt Hunter. I mean, like, honestly, we need to just have a whole Spookshow spotlight on Chuck Norris.
We should.
I mean,
certainly should.
Yeah, I mean, like, what would be, I guess, the main things that most people would remember him from would be Walker, Texas Ranger, right? The Missing in Action films from the 80s. This was the first. And a 6-film Cannon deal that he had after the success of the Missing in Action movies. One of the biggest action stars of all time and definitely of the 80s. It also stars Richard Lynch as Mikhail Rostov. Now we were talking off air about Richard Lynch, about how like his appearance, right, Donnie?
Yeah. When I was growing up, man, when I watched this movie growing up, I always thought that his burns were just makeup, but no, it turns out it was 1967, I believe, or 1969. He took a bunch of acid and then set himself on fire, which is fucking crazy, if you survive that. But yeah, that's that. I mean,
wasn't something similar to that to happen to Richard Pryor?
I don't know.
He was freebasing.
Yeah, and then
I guess Rich's was probably like he's on a head full of acid and didn't know what the hell he was doing. But yeah, I think Richard Pryor's he was freebasing cocaine, and then something happened where it's like boom, it went up his hair and skin and all kind of stuff.
Damn,
that's today's lesson, kids, that you'll learn on Cannon Fodder. Don't freebase.
I think basically what ended up happening to Richard Lynch is after he died, he donated his body to science. So he's been, hacked up and, probably dissected, and who knows?
Maybe it went to help cure someone. A couple others to mention is Melissa Prophet as Dahlia McGuire. She's the reporter that kind of pops in and out at random times throughout the movie. We've got Alexander Zale as Nico. Of course, Billy Drago as Mickey. That's a really small part, but Billy Drago went on to be in a shit ton of these types of movies. You know, definitely a recognizable face. And he's also the first dude that gets his dick blown off in this movie. So if you're wondering who Billy Drago is, that's the guy. But the movie was directed by Joseph Zito. Did you guys have any notes on Joseph Zito or any of these, anything that I didn't bring up here?
I did, actually. Kind of to bring it full circle around to Whoopi Goldberg. Chuck Norris was so pissed off at Joseph Zito that he didn't cast Whoopi Goldberg as the lead, or as the reporter, that he swore he would never work with Joseph Zito again.
I'd like to personally thank Joseph Zito
for not putting Whoopi Goldberg in it.
Yes, I can't stand Whoopi Goldberg. Sorry.
Well, I mean, that would have been a pretty big get at the time, though. Right? Well, I guess she was kind of a big thing by then, right?
I think she was on her way up, but
okay, so she hadn't quite got there yet. Either way.
Well, Austin mentioned that he had seen her in a play.
But Joseph Zito, he also directed Blood Rage, but not the Blood Rage, the Thanksgiving flick that we watched. It's a different Blood Rage from 1980. But he also did The Prowler, Friday the 13th, the final chapter, the first Missing in Action. He only directed 3 more movies after Invasion USA, which is kind of weird considering he was on a pretty good roll there. But
should have cast Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, maybe that's why.
You do not piss off Chuck Norris.
Yeah, apparently.
He was the original
Chuck ruined
Chuck Norris jokes.
Yeah.
Well, it had to do with Missing in Action and Joe Zito, and I believe it was they had completed a Missing in Action movie, and I forget who directed the other one. Technically, it was going to be the first one, but then Joe Zito delivered his movie, and they liked it much better, so they went with that movie as the first Missing in Action. And then the other movie that was going to be Missing in Action became Missing in Action 2.
Yeah.
I thought this was kind of interesting. I found this on IMDb. Up until 2007, this was MGM's second highest selling home video title behind Gone with the Wind.
Wow.
That's hilarious.
That's the only time you'd ever hear these two movies compared on any level.
I had a considerable chunk in that, and the home video renting Invasion US. After I dubbed it off, I didn't have to rent it anymore. Oh no!
What?
I'm sorry. What? Oh, you could edit that out. That Chuck Norris got the kind of the idea from Reader's Digest when he was reading an article said something about hundreds of terrorists are loose in the United States right now. And then he read that and he's like, oh, that's kind of scary. And then what happened? What would happen if somebody, a leader type, mobilized them, where Invasion USA idea came from?
You had mentioned Aaron Norris. Actually, also Chuck's son, Eric Norris, was also, granted, he was young at the time, but he also had I think it was his first stunt role.
So the Norris DNA is all over
Yum, yum. It's time for a tasty and refreshing snack. We promise to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, your sweet tooth. So visit our refreshment center now. Let's go.
For you, the listeners of the All-American Spook Show podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. So I just went over to old Audible and typed in Chuck Norris to see what would pop up. The first one that pops up is Against All Odds, My Story by Chuck Norris and Ken Abraham. And that one's about 7.5 hours long. So obviously a biography there, or I guess an autobiography. But even better, there's one called The Official Chuck Norris Fact Book, 101 of Chuck's Favorite Facts and Stories by Chuck Norris. That one's over 4.5 hours long.
Are any of these read by Chuck Norris? Because I feel like that would be a huge selling point.
No. Although that Against All Odds book is narrated by Michael Norris, so I would imagine that's someone in his family, unless it's just random coincidence. But there's also another one by Chuck Norris here called Black Belt Patriotism, How to Reawaken America by Chuck Norris. And it's just him in like a karate gi on the front of it. So I don't know. I guess he's just going to kick the shit out of America. I don't know. But that one's 6 hours and 21 minutes long. So
that goes against everything Chuck Norris stands for.
True. You're right.
He's going to kick the shit out of America.
He's going to kick the shit out of America to straighten us out. You see,
okay.
That's what
we're all
getting
good.
No.
Yeah, we deserve it. But yeah, if any of that interests you over on old Audible, you can go to audibletrial.com/spookshow. Again, that's audibletrial.com/spookshow. for your free audio book. So anyways, kind of our new little way, instead of like going deep into the plot or anything, I just go over to IMDb and I search for plot summaries. And, you normally find at least a couple that like random people have posted up. Of course, we've got the one-line summary, which really explains all you need to know. Most of these one-liners do, let's be honest, but, the other ones go a little deeper. This one just says, a one-man army comes to the rescue of the United States when a spy attempts an invasion. So that'll get you there, right? That'll get you in the theater. But if that's not enough, let's see. RCS0411 at yahoo.com says, a terrorist, Rostov, is planning to unleash a reign of terror on the U.S. But before he does, he decides to go after Matt Hunter, former CIA agent who lives in Florida. Hunter once had Rostov's life in his hands, but on orders took him alive. And now Rostov is plagued by nightmares of Hunter killing him. So Rostov goes after him, but misses. So Hunter, who has already been approached by his former employers to go after Rostov, after initially turning down the job because he believed that they should have let him terminate Rostov when he had the chance, decides to go after him. But he is only one man, and Rostov has hundreds of men ripping the country apart. So how will he stop it? And one last one. This is by Scott Lane. It reads, foreign mercenaries start a reign of terror in the southern U.S. Chuck Norris is a recluse who lives in the Everglades and is the mercenaries' primary obstacles. I like that they don't even put the guy like it's Matt Hunter. No, they just say Chuck Norris is a recluse. He believes that this is really Chuck Norris doing this. At least that's the way I read it.
So this is a documentary.
Yeah, but basically.
It's a biopic,
I guess that's about all the setup and all the background and stuff I had. So I guess we can go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes here, the discussion. Will, you haven't been here in an episode or two. I'll go ahead and let you start us up. What kind of observation or point you want to make here about this movie?
First off, I know I've brought something like this up in the past. At this point in my life, I'm into my 40s. I feel like grenade launchers, along with quicksand, should have really been a bigger part of my life, according to all these movies that I've seen growing up.
Yeah, your youth was misspent. Because if you were preparing for, that there was always going to be war, so missile launchers were common, and that anywhere you go, you might fall into quicksand, then
That's such a great point, though, man.
Within the first 15 minutes of this movie, Rostov, the main bad guy here,
yeah,
he slaughters a boat of Cuban immigrants. They just murder like women and children, and they mow down at least 50 to 100 people on this boat. How many hell ever were on there? That's probably within the first 5 to 10 minutes. That's like the opening scene, pretty much, right?
Yeah,
and then within the next 10 minutes later, he shoots Billy Drago's dick off. So that's how we begin this movie.
Yeah, we probably should have also mentioned that we are a spoiler-filled podcast.
Yeah, well,
so if you're listening to this, you probably already know, but
but you should pause this and go watch Invasion USA.
Yeah,
if you haven't, because otherwise,
I watched it on Tubi.
Yeah, I believe it was on Hoopla and Tubi, and God, there was one or two other ways. We can look that up as we talk here, but it is available to stream and for free in various ways.
Anyway. One of the things that to me that jumped out in this movie was the fact that they kept jumping from what essentially felt like action scene to action scene. Like, hey, this stuff's going on. Oh, cutaway scene, and that's all I know.
Oh, there's nothing to set up the next thing. It's just It's just Hunter showing up in different places with no real explanation as to how he would have figured out where they are at all times. Like they're going to do something in the mall, he's there. They're going to blow up a school bus, he's driving down the road.
I mean, the only thing that he didn't show up to was the fact that the dude showed up on the beach.
Yeah. And what a that whole scene. Are you talking about when like the boat the invasion boats show up?
Yeah, like the D-Day invasion boats.
Yeah, and they're like clown cars too, because 1,000 men got off those boats.
and how do we not realize that those are coming over? Like it's a country.
Yeah, they missed that. They call it a fishing boat. That's just a fishing boat. It's good.
Well, what you don't know is the only thing that's stopping an invading force is two teenagers having sex on the beach, because as soon as he pops, like dude walks up with the gun with the silencer on it and kills both of them. And then all of a sudden, out of the darkness, 4 boats show up with 32,000 men aboard.
I feel like there should have been a flashlight code for, hey, these 2 people are hooking up. Let's give it about 5 minutes.
Yeah. He should have hung his sock up on the tree or something so they'd know. So like this all happens, like hundreds of men come screaming off the boats like, yeah, let's fucking get them. And then they just run across the street to a bunch of conveniently placed trucks that are parked maximum overdrive.
Yeah.
Like style, like across, all lined up, ready to go. Like that's not inconspicuous at all. Like no one would have noticed all these random trucks just parked on the side of the road.
And this movie did it before at school. These terrorists are so culturally diverse, and it's kind of ambiguous too. Like they don't really peg it on. They don't really peg it on any one country per se. Like this isn't necessarily like Russia coming for us or something. This is just like it's a collection of international folk that are that are joining forces because they're all mercenaries, I guess, and then they're just coming to cause chaos.
Yeah, but except they don't mention it, but he is I guess he's supposed to be Russian because he does. Did he speak Russian a couple of lines? It seemed like or whatever.
I guess he's speaking some language. I'm assuming, without knowing, I guess. But
plus the name Rostov. I mean,
his name is Mikhail Rostov. So
yeah,
but like not all of the men are Russian. Obviously, they're all just. Here's an Asian guy. Here's a Cuban guy.
Multi-nationality.
I want to say somebody spoke German.
Probably, yeah.
What was that?
I think
that's me getting pissed, man.
I think
I'm about to start the revolution.
I'm just so upset about this shit. I think Chuck Norris just busted into your room there.
It's time to die.
No, it's time.
Remember this line, stone face, like you did through the entire movie.
Do not speak negatively of Chuck Norris. You can speak negative of the movie, certain aspects of it, but do not speak negatively of Chuck Norris. So the airboat drive-by, like Hunter's in his house with his fucking pet armadillo. And
why is the armadillo? It's like it got it wasn't just one shot; it got 2 shots.
Yeah, it's just over there goofing around with a bowl of milk. Like, what the fuck is this? Like.
No,
he's got a pet armadillo for some reason, and there's this I guess this silly guy that's his friend. His name's John Eagles, and so there's an airboat drive by. I mean, literally like 4 airboats that drive up. They just fucking blow up his house, and then they just airboat away. And they don't even check to make sure he's dead either. They're just like, "Yep, that did it." But isn't this guy, I mean, Rostov is really worried about Hunter. Like, we got to go kill this guy. We've got to stop everything and go kill this guy. They just blow his house up and then immediately leave. They don't check to make sure they killed him.
We did it. Yay.
That's pretty much, yeah.
And then, so Chuck Norris just, kind of like, well, fuck, that happened. So he burned the rest of his house down. He didn't check
with the corpse of his buddy.
Now, you saw the armadillo walk away, but he didn't check to see if the armadillo lived, right?
No, he was just like, all right, peace.
Yeah, the corpse of his buddy, John Eagles, is there. And then he just calmly burns the place down, gets on an airboat, and goes back to John Eagles' place. Doesn't go in to tell anybody that, hey, John Eagles is dead down the river over there. He just gets in a truck and just drives away.
Yeah.
It seems like there would have been someone you would have notified, like, hey, look, this is pretty fucked up, but John Eagles, yeah, he's dead. He's down the river. My charred remains of my house. It's where I used to live. See y'all. No.
Wait, why'd you burn him?
Gotta go.
Viking funeral.
I gotta go kill Rostov. Who's that? What's going on?
I got a madman here.
So then they go to the neighborhood, or there's a neighborhood. It's just. Here's generic neighborhood.
Anytown, U.S.A.
Yeah, and it's Christmas time. Like,
yeah, does that make Invasion USA a Christmas movie?
No,
I think it does.
No, it doesn't.
I don't think this movie happens without that plot point.
None of these things.
It's just as much of a Christmas movie as Die Hard is.
No, what? No. Now, if you want to say it's just as much a Christmas movie as Lethal Weapon, okay, I'm on board. But Die Hard,
Best Christmas movie.
Yeah, so like they show this neighborhood, and then they just show up and blow all the houses up. Luckily, you know, like the little girl that you see her like, oh, she's okay, but her whole family got slaughtered.
She's an orphan.
Yeah.
But she's got to feel good. I mean, that was the first, and as far as I know, only handheld automatic missile launcher in the history of man.
No, what you didn't see is they had like 8 or 9 of those things sitting in the bed of the truck, so they were all just lined up.
He just turned, fired another one, turned, fired another one.
Yeah, that's the way. I mean, look, I know my military operations. That's the way it works.
Now, actually, you know, speaking of which, you know, if this was any other movie from any other studio, you know, you'd have some strategic shots with, you know, a map spread over the hood of a truck, but you don't get any of that shit. No. Not with a can.
You mean like you would actually see a map with like a campaign or something like that of like, hey, we're pushing this way and that way.
Yeah. Cannon.
No, I really think they're well, obviously, yeah, but I think really their plan was just to cause chaos here. I don't think there was like maybe Invasion USA is not the proper title for this movie. You know, it wasn't.
It's something more like a Invasion South Florida.
Yeah. Invasion Fort Lauderdale. That's another porn movie, I think, actually. Yeah, the line, Smoke, I think you alluded to it earlier off air, but the line when he's threatening the guy and he ends up handing the dude a grenade and then just walks away. But the guy that came in, he's like, the guy's like, hey, what the fuck? He just pushes him off and then it says, I'm going to hit you with so many rights, you'll beg for a left. Which is a great line. But did you guys notice whenever? So the guy, I think he had a red shirt on. The tough that comes in, right? That he threatens. He comes in. He says that line. Then the dude runs away. Then all of a sudden, the prostitute that was in the room with him, she runs out to go get help. That dude's downstairs and runs up as the help, like with the other Lou Ferrigno type dude.
Yeah,
that's continuity. All blown all to hell there.
Yeah.
Through this entire movie, there's just so many continuity issues. The missile launcher, there's a scene with like the woman trying out the cocaine. It's in big mounds, and then like 2 seconds later, it's in like credit card lines.
Maybe they were just so much. Yeah, they were just anticipating him getting his dick blown off so much that they just said, "Fuck continuity. We just need to get to it. We need to see it."
These two we didn't talk about that guy right before he shot Billy Drago on the dick. He like bammed that girl's head down on the little her little metal.
Oh yeah, fuck!
It went right into her like brain basically.
Yeah,
like
bleeding out.
She throws her out.
Yeah, snorting the coke with like one of those metal straws or whatever the hell. And he's like he does the Joker disappearing act on her, like it goes up her nose and.
And then she screams, and then he throws her out the fucking window. It's just like, damn. All right, well, I guess that's one way to stop her.
Really thinking back on that scene, like, what the fuck was the point of all that? Like,
I think
it didn't add to it.
For Chuck Norris's character to get the one guy, and that guy was eventually going to go back to the boss. I think ultimately is what that whole scene is about.
I'm still curious as to how Hunter gets all of his information throughout the movie. Like, there should have been at least a little bit of like.
It's easy. It's right here in the script.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Maybe that was part of like I think what Austin was talking about, how like the role of the reporter was supposed to be bigger than it was. So maybe there would have been a few things explained there if they'd have maybe expanded the role a little bit, or. Something like maybe he's getting his information from her kind of thing. Except the way it's played in the movie, she just happens to be in all these random places that he shows up to. And then every time she just runs him down. Like, what? Why aren't you doing anything, Hunter? You son of a bitch,
The one scene where she frisbees the garbage can lid at him.
Yeah.
He's walking away.
Oh man, that was awful. So funny.
And I think that's how they wrote her off. Like, I don't think you saw her again after that. Hunter, you son of a bitch. She hooks a garbage can and then you never see her again. What about the famous mall scene?
Oh God. You know what? And there were a lot of great parts, but I would probably say my favorite part was the little mall security truck, little thing that was just like,
nope.
It was like, nope, that it U-turn.
Yeah, that was definitely a great memorable scene. I'd say between like say the mall scene, the neighborhood, blowing up the neighborhood scene.
Yep.
I mean they looked good because they were real, like he pointed out. So like, yeah, those are definitely memorable scenes because of that, because you're really actually seeing some real built shit getting blown up. It looked great. Like we always say, practical effects.
But yeah, something else is when he was shooting out of his truck, Hunter, and he went from a handgun to 2 Uzis in less than a second. It was like bang, bang with the handgun, and then
that's because it's Chuck Norris, I assume, but or it could be a continuity error. I don't know. It's one or the other.
It is impressive, like through this entire movie. But I really noticed it in the mall scene. All the times that the terrorists have the jump on him are already pulling up their guns, and Chuck Norris is just faster.
Yeah,
and he's bulletproof.
That all jives. That makes sense. So the Smoke, I think you mentioned earlier, the moving the bomb off the bus scene, where he just drives up beside it and then takes because they put a bomb on the side of a school bus and it's full of kids, and he just takes it off the side of it and then pulls it up to the side of the terrorist.
Tosses it
So like, did you leave this behind, or did you forget this, or whatever? And then just tosses that at him. And then is that when like it didn't just blow up? Didn't they drive into the side of a car and then it blew up?
Well, they just like hydroplane or what you call it.
Yeah, they slid and then it blew up. Which one am I thinking of? There was another. Oh, it was the grenade in the car.
Yeah.
And then like they just ran into like a used car lot and then.
Yeah, that was the one where they had gotten the report. No, Chuck Norris and the reporter were in a car, and they were chasing down that one guy that grabbed like a random girl. Yeah.
Talking
about like those bomb scenes. How about the scene where they're setting the bomb up outside the church?
The briefcase bomb.
It looked like they pretty much walked in a straight line from the truck to the church, put it on the front of the church steps.
Yeah.
They go to explode it. Somehow they didn't notice that Chuck Norris, A,
stole it. Yeah.
B, had time to get upstairs.
Get on the roof above them, behind them, and above them.
Chuck Norris is a Marvel superhero.
Yes, he is. That is awesome though. Like it's basically the same kind of line too. Like, you forgetting something or whatever, and then he just dropped it on him and blew him up. Oh no, like it didn't work. Oh, now it will. I think that's what he said. And
yeah,
then,
something like that.
He's got the wires and they just
And then whenever there was like gunfire, you would always hear the same exact one, like action flick ricochet sounds from like the A-Team and stuff.
Oh yeah, it's stock footage. It's like stock sound effect. Yeah.
Bing dong, bing dong.
I didn't notice this, but I saw this online. When he shot the couple at the beginning of the movie that was about to hook up, there was a silencer on the gun.
Oh yeah,
but it's still loud as fuck. The silencer.
They just put the sound effect in there.
Yeah, usually the movie sound effect is like, when it's like a silencer, like. No, this is bam, bam.
And that gun must have been fucking loud without that silencer. Then
yeah, and then the little TV blew up. Like they had one of those little like portable TVs from back in the day that took like 1800 D batteries. Maybe that's what caused it to blow up. The fucking thing blew up.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
Speaking of like noises and whatnot, so at the end, whenever like literally World War III is going on outside, and Hunter's inside the building, kind of like having the final face off with Rostov. Every time it would cut back and forth between the chaos outside and in the building, inside the building is perfect silence. Like they're just upstairs right next door to like chaos, but perfect silence. You don't hear a bullet. There's fucking tanks, dude. And you don't hear shit.
There's fucking tanks, dude. I'm sorry.
I mean, that's canon for you, man. Like they should have at least like dubbed in like the noise in the background or something, like.
Oh, that's funny. I'm sorry. It just.
So how about the ending? How about the ending?
Time.
But he like whispers it or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that a callback to something he had said to him before?
Well, I mean, he did say it's time to die, and like in his dream. Remember, because Rostov had a dream. He said,
So Chuck Norris knows. So Chuck Norris knows, or I'm sorry, Hunter knows Rostov's dreams.
Yeah, well,
right the first time.
He also he also told the guy who told him where to find him. He said, you know, if you see Rostov, tell him it's time to die. He did say it then.
So then he whispers it to him, and then they had a duel with rocket launchers. They just straight up had like a high noon duel with like who can shoot it off faster.
That's a different kind of duel.
This has nothing to do with that scene. You just reminded me of right before that scene. Chuck Norris's character is about to walk through the doors. He walks through one door, everything's fine, and he's about to walk through another door, and there's two guys on the other side. What, he had like a rocket launcher or something and shoots it into the wall. The wall explodes, and I think it like kills like two people. But there's holes on each side of the wall.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Fuck?
There's two things there. One is Chuck Norris, and two is 1985.
And there was fucking tanks, dude.
There were fucking tanks, dude.
And you didn't hear shit.
Oh my god.
So yeah, this is going to be interesting to see what our ratings and stuff are. So I guess we'll go ahead and go around the table, and we'll start with you. What's your final thoughts and star rating? How many cannonballs you giving it?
There are a lot of things to say give it 1. There are a lot of things to say give it 83. So I think I'm gonna hit around 3.5 cannonballs. There are so many things that are so wrong they're right. So that's going to be a big factor in why I went that high.
Donnie, what about you?
Oh, I would say a similar rating. Nonstop action, Chuck Norris, explosions, shit that doesn't make sense. Just yeah. I'm actually going to go a little higher. I'm going to say 3 3/4 cannonballs.
All right, Smoke. What do you say?
Oh, I mean, this is for a Cannon movie. You can't. It's hard to get much bigger than this. Chuck Norris. A huge budget for Cannon. Richard Lynch, Billy Drago, and a very memorable, however short scene.
And that seems like his move too. Like sick fuck. Like because he does it twice. Like who's
I forget even who the other
mercenary?
I forgot. I don't even remember what scene it was where he shot the other guy in the dick. I don't remember. Is it the?
It was.
I think it's when he got pissed at somebody, right? Yeah, it's the guy that like came in. That guy. That guy that
ratted him out.
Had ratted him out or whatever. He's just like, you motherfucker, and then just pulled pap, 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 right in the dick. Like, why is that his mercenary move? Is just shooting dudes in the dick.
Oh man, but yeah, it's this is kind of top notch for me, top tier Cannon when it comes to Cannon. As you said, we have the sliding Cannon scale here for grading movies.
Yeah.
I can't go any lower than 5 great big Chuck Norris sized cannonballs. I think.
Honestly, Smoke, I think I'm going to go with you. I can't disagree. And Austin said 5 cannonballs as well.
Yeah.
Just a reference from earlier, he said 5 as well. Like, yeah, like on this Cannon scale, I'm going to have to go 5 because like it's almost like I said when we did Over the Top. I know that there's much worse waiting on us as we go further along down the old Cannon Fodder hole here. So like these we've seen some of the good ones. Trust me. Like. And there's still plenty of other good ones left, for us, obviously, but there's a lot of turds too. So, yeah, eventually we'll get to one that won't be so happy about watching. But there we go. We'll leave it there. We don't do a kill count, but Will, you were talking off air. You actually found a kill count that you wanted to point out.
Yeah, apparently it's 129. How this number was brought up?
Yeah,
how do you count all the people in that final fight?
I think that's just the people that Chuck Norris looked at because that seems low. That seems low.
According to this, Matt Hunter's on-screen body count was 30.
Oh, well, literally World War III damn near breaks out. By the way, like this would be like a nationwide crisis, right? Like this seemed very localized.
I I thought he said something. I saw an interview with Chuck Norris where he said that was supposed to be going on all across the USA. Of course, they don't have the budget to show all that. But I guess you're supposed to believe that it's going on in other cities, but they don't have a Matt Hunter in their town, I guess. So they're probably
So really, in the end, all he managed to do is save like the greater Fort Lauderdale area. The rest of the U.S. is fucked.
No. See, this is what y'all don't know about terrorist organizations. You cut off the head, everything else shrivels.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, now it's all coming together.
Fort Lauderdale.
Yes. And of course, we don't do the gore score since it's not a horror movie. So, but we do still have the Cannon connections.
Cannon Connections.
Yeah, this is pretty interesting. Basically, what we do with Cannon Connections, we connect the current movie episode by any cast and crew connections to past Spookshow episodes, including horror, including, Crapster Piece Theater as well. There are no cast connections, but there are on the crew side. Howard Berger did the special effects makeup for, he's part of the crew, the special effects makeup crew for Invasion USA. He has 364 IMDb credits. He also ties back to The Green Inferno, which we did, Annabelle, and House of Wax. But I would also mention that, and this may come as a surprise to Smoke or the rest of you, horror icons Tom Savini and Greg Nicotero also worked on Invasion USA.
I can see it with the connection, though, with Joseph Zito. Joe Zito directing Friday the 13th, the final chapter, and Savini doing the effects. Yeah. I didn't know that going into it, but I see where they probably got pulled into it from.
And that scene where, like, at the end when he just fucking blows Rostov up.
Yeah.
There is, like, because it's super slow mode, of course. You do see, like, body parts and, like, a leg or a foot, like parts of him just flying out of the window. So yeah, I'm sure Savini and those guys had something to do with that, I would imagine. Yeah, but anyways, there we go. That's the latest Cannon Fodder. That's Invasion USA. So happy Memorial Day to everybody. So, but coming up next week, we're finally going to be starting Camp Spook Show. Now, the whole point and the whole theme of the summer is basically all the movies that we do, whether it's Cult Corner, whether it's Cannon Fodder, and of course our horror reviews, and even Spook Show spotlights. They're all going to be summer camp related. So it has to have something to do with the summer camp. We also do a rotation of picks now. So it just so happens that, Will, this is your choice to kick off Camp Spook Show. And then the only requirement is that it has to be a newer release. So in our book, the line is anything newer is the year 2000 up to present. So what you got?
So yeah, I'm going to go with movie I've never seen before, You Might Be the Killer, 2018 horror slasher film. A little synopsis I found was a camp counselor suffering from memory loss suddenly finds himself surrounded by murder victims and turns to his horror movie enthusiast friend for help.
So this could be, it sounds kind of Screamish, because I've never seen this. Smoke, have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Donnie?
No, I have not.
So here we go. It's the rare occasion where all four of us have not seen this movie. So we'll get that out next week. That will kick off Camp Spook Show pretty much throughout the entirety of the summer on all of our things that we do, all the sub-series, probably even over on the Library of the Professor, right, Smoke? I'm sure you'll have some stuff cooked up over there on Patreon. We'll kind of lean into some of that stuff on Deadline Horror News every Wednesday, too, at 9 p.m. East over on our YouTube channel. So, I guess that's it for this week's episode and for Cannon Fodder. And for Donnie and Will and the Professor Smoke, I'm Josh. We are the All-American Spook Show. We are the All-American Spook Show, and we will. We're some kind of damn show. Who knows what we are?
Shit show.
Yeah, yeah, we are the shit show. So we will talk to you next week.
Please replace the speaker on its rack when you're ready to leave. Failure to do so will damage both the speaker and your car. We'll be grateful, and so will the patrons who follow you.